Hi, my name is Karen, and I'm an American lay student of Ajahn Suchat, or Pra Ajahn Suchat Abhijato, who has given me the very special honor of being asked by him to record this book for you. This book was written by Pra Ajahn Suchat's own teacher, the Venerable Acharya Mahabua Gnanasampanno, and is a spiritual biography written by him about his teacher, the Venerable Acharya Mun Buridatta Thera. The title of the book is Venerable Acharya Mun Buridatta Thera, a spiritual biography by Acharya Mahabua Gnanasampanno, and it was published in 2005, translated into English by Bhikkhu Dick Siliratano. If you would like to learn how to download or get a hard copy of this book, or a list of which pages or chapters are read on each separate recording, please listen to the beginning of the first recording of this book. This book, in any form, is to be given away for free. Any ads you may see or hear in this recording have been put there by the platform you are using to listen or view with, for its own revenue, in exchange for letting us use their platform for free. Please forgive me for any mispronunciations of names, places, or words, as I'm still learning how to pronounce Thai and Pali, and for any background noises, as I'm just making these recordings in my apartment with an unruly dog and in the middle of a city. We're resuming today on page 84. We are in chapter 2, and we are still in the section titled Local Customs and Beliefs. On those occasions when Acharya Mun had to teach large numbers of lay supporters, as well as the monks living with him, he would allot separate times for giving instructions. He instructed the laity from 4 to 5 p.m. He taught the monks and novices from 7 p.m. onwards, at the end of which they returned to their huts to practice meditation. He tended to follow this routine on his first and second tours of the Northeast. On his third and final trip, after returning from Chiang Mai to Udon Thani, he changed his routine considerably. Rather than disrupt the sequence of events, I shall explain the adjustments he made later. Acharya Mun's chief concern was teaching monks and novices. He took a special interest in those students experiencing various insights in their meditation by calling them in for a personal interview. It's quite normal for those practicing meditation to have varying characters and temperaments, so the types of insights arising from their practice will vary accordingly, although the resulting cool, calm sense of happiness will be the same. Differences occur in the practical methods they employ and in the nature of insights that arise during meditation. Some meditators are inclined to know only things existing exclusively within their own minds. Others tend to know things of a more external nature, such as visions of ghosts or devas, or visions of people and animals dying right in front of them. They may see a corpse carried along and then dumped right in front of them, or they may have a vision of their own body lying dead before them. All such experiences are beyond the capability of beginning meditators to handle correctly with any certainty, since the beginner is unable to distinguish between what is real and what is not. People who are not inclined to analyze their experiences carefully may come to a wrong understanding, believing what they see to be genuine. This could increase the likelihood of psychological damage in the future. The type of person whose citta tends to go out to perceive external phenomena when it converges into a state of calm is quite rare, at most about 1 in 20 people. But there will always be someone in whom this occurs. It is crucial that they receive advice from a meditation master with expertise in these matters. Listening to Datanga monks as they relate their meditation results to Acharya Mun, and hearing him give advice on ways to deal with their experiences was so moving and inspirational that everyone present became thoroughly absorbed in it. In explaining the proper method for dealing with visions, Acharya Mun characterized different types of nimittas and explained in great detail how each type should be handled. The monks who listened were delighted by the Dhamma he presented, and so gained confidence, resolving to develop themselves even further. Even those who did not experience external visions were encouraged by what they heard. Sometimes the monks told Acharya Mun how they had achieved a state of serene happiness when their hearts converged into a state of calm, explaining the methods they had used. Even those who were as yet unable to attain such levels became motivated to try, or to even surpass them. Hearing these discussions was a joyous experience, both for those who were already well developed and those who were still struggling in their practice. When the citta converged into calm, some monks traveled psychically to the heavenly realms, touring celestial mansions until dawn, and only then did the citta return to the physical body and regain normal consciousness. Others traveled to the realms of hell and were dismayed by the pitiful condition of the beings they saw, enduring the results of their karma. Some visited both the heavenly abodes and the hells to observe the great differences between them. One realm was blessed with joy and bliss, while the other was in the depths of despair, the beings there tormented by a punishment that seemed to have no end. Some monks received visits from ethereal beings from various planes of existence, the heavens, for instance, or the terrestrial devas. Others simply experienced the varying degrees of calm and happiness coming from the attainment of samadhi. Some investigated, using wisdom to divide the body into different sections, dissecting each section to bits, piece by piece, then reducing the whole lot to its original elemental state. There were those who were just beginning their training, struggling as a child does when it first learns to walk. Some could not make the citta attain the concentrated state of calm they desired, and wept at their own incompetence. And some wept from deep joy and wonder upon hearing Acharya Mun discuss states of Dhamma they themselves had experienced. There were also those who were simply like a ladle in a pot of stew. Although submerged there, it doesn't know the taste of the stew, and even manages to get in the cook's way. This is quite normal when many different people are living together. Inevitably, both the good and the bad are mixed in together. A person having effective mindfulness and wisdom will choose to keep only those lessons which are deemed to be really useful, lessons essential to skillful practice. I regret I cannot guarantee my own skillfulness in this matter. In fact, it's a problem we all face occasionally, so let's pass on and not worry about it. On his second trip, Acharya Mun remained teaching in the Northeast for many years. Normally, he did not remain in the same place for more than a single rains retreat. When the rainy season was over, he wandered freely in the mountains and forests, like a bird burdened only by its wings, contented to fly wherever it wishes. No matter where it lands in its search for food, a tree, a pond, or a marsh, it is satisfied and simply leaves all behind to fly off with no lingering attachment. It doesn't think that the trees, bark, fruit, ponds, or marshes belong to it. Like a bird, the monk who practices Dhamma, living in the forest, leads a life of contentment. But it's not easy to do, for people are social animals who enjoy living together and are attached to their homes and property. Initially, he feels a lot of resistance going out and living alone, as Acharya Mun did all his life. It is sort of like a land animal being dragged into the water. Once his heart has become closely integrated with Dhamma, however, the opposite is true. He enjoys traveling by himself and living alone. His daily routine in every posture remains entirely his own, his heart unencumbered by disturbing preoccupations. That leaves Dhamma as his preoccupation, and Dhamma promotes only contentment. The monk who is occupied solely with Dhamma has a heart that's cheerful and wonderfully content. He is free from the kind of hindrances which cause dullness or confusion. He is empty of all defiling preoccupations. He basks in a full-fledged, natural inner peace, never having to worry that it might alter or diminish in any way. This is known as Akalika Dhamma, Dhamma which exists beyond space and time. It exists in the heart that has completely transcended conventional reality, the source of all deception. Acharya Mun was one well gone, one completely contented in all his activities. Coming and going, sitting, standing, walking, or lying down, he remained completely contented. Although he led his disciples along this path, relatively few of the monks reached a high level of Dhamma. Yet even this small number is of great benefit to people everywhere. When Acharya Mun led his disciples on alms round, he took various animals along the way as objects of contemplation, and combining them with his inner Dhamma, he skillfully taught the monks who were with him. They clearly heard his every word. This was his way of teaching his disciples to be aware about the laws of karma, in that even animals must receive the results of their actions. He would just point out an animal they came across as an example. Acharya Mun insisted that animals should not be looked down upon for their lowly birth. In truth, animals have reached their time in the perpetual cycle of birth and death, experiencing the results of a past karma. So it is with human birth as well. In fact, both animal life and human life consist of a mixture of pleasure and pain, each living according to the consequences of their own individual karma. In one respect, Acharya Mun brought out the subject of animals such as chickens, dogs, or cattle, simply out of compassion for their plight. In another respect, he wanted to make others understand the variations in the consequences of karma, indicating that just as we have been brought to human birth by certain types of karma, we too have passed through uncountable previous births of all sorts. Finally, he reflected aloud upon the very mysterious nature of those things that are responsible for birth as an animal, things that are difficult to fathom despite their presence in everyone. If we are unskillful in solving these problems, they will always be a danger to us, and we will never find a way to go beyond them. On almost every alms round, Acharya Mun spoke in this manner about the animals or the people whom he encountered along the way. Those who were interested in investigating these themes stimulated their mindfulness and wisdom, gaining useful ideas from him in this way. As to those who were not interested, they did not gain any benefit. Some probably wondered who he was talking about, since the monks had moved on by then, and the animals he spoke about were no longer present. In some of the northeast provinces, Acharya Mun would give Dhamma instructions to the monks late at night on special occasions. Visible to Acharya Mun, terrestrial devas gathered at a respectful distance and listened to his talks. Once he became aware of them, he called off the meeting and quickly entered Samadhi, where he talked privately to the devas. Their reticence on those occasions was due to the profound respect they had for monks. Acharya Mun explained that devas of all levels were careful to avoid passing by the monks' dwellings on the way to see him late at night. Upon arriving, they circled around Acharya Mun 3 times before sitting down in an orderly fashion. Then the leader, devas of every plane have a leader whom they obey with great deference, would announce the realm from which they came and the aspect of Dhamma to which they wished to listen. Acharya Mun would return their greetings and then focus his citta on that aspect of Dhamma requested by the devas. As this Dhamma arose within, he began the talk. When they had comprehended the Dhamma that he delivered, they all said sadhu 3 times, a sound that echoed throughout the spiritual universe. This exclamation was heard by everyone with celestial hearing, but not by those whose ears were like the handles on a pot of soup. When his discourse on Dhamma ended, the devas again circumambulated him 3 times, keeping him on their right, and then returned to their realms in an elegant fashion. very different from we humans. Not even Acharya Mun and his monks could emulate their graceful movements, for there's a great difference between the grossness of our bodies and the subtle refinement of theirs. As soon as the Deva guests retreated to the edge of the monks' area, they floated up into the air like pieces of fluff blown by the wind. On each visit they descended in the same manner, arriving outside the monks' living area and then walking the remainder of the way. Always very graceful in their movements, they never spoke, making a lot of noise the way humans do when going to see an acharya they revere. This is probably due to the refined nature of their celestial bodies, which restrict them from behaving in such a gross manner. Here is an area in which human beings can be considered superior to devas, talking loudly. Devas are always very composed when listening to the Dhamma, never fidgeting restlessly or showing any conceit that could disturb the speaking monk. Acharya Mun usually knew beforehand when the devas would be arriving. For instance, if they were planning to come at midnight, by early evening he was aware of it. On some occasions, he had to cancel a scheduled meeting with the monks for that evening. At the appropriate hour, Acharya Mun left his walking meditation path and sat entering samadhi until the time approached for the devas to come. He then withdrew his citta up to the access level, sending out the flow of his citta to see if they had arrived. If they had yet to arrive, he continued with his samadhi practice before sending out his citta out again to check. Sometimes the devas had already arrived or were just in the process of arriving. At other times, he had to wait, continuing his samadhi practice for some time before they came. On rare occasions, when he knew that they would be arriving late, like at 1 or 2 or 3 a.m., he would practice for a while and then take a rest, getting up to ready himself just before the devas were expected to arrive. Gatherings of devas who came to see Acharya Mun did not happen very often, nor in very large numbers, while he lived in the northeast. They came only infrequently to listen in on his talks to the monks. But when they did, he would dismiss the monks as soon as he became aware of their presence, entering quickly into samadhi to expound on Dhamma for the devas' benefit. After he finished and the devas had departed, he would lie down to rest, arising in the morning as usual to continue his normal routine of practice. Acharya Mun considered receiving devas a special responsibility. Since honoring one's promises is very important to them, he was always careful to be punctual. They were likely to be critical of a monk who missed an appointment unnecessarily. Discussions between devas and monks are carried on entirely in the universal language of the heart, bypassing the multitude of conventional languages used by human beings and other types of animals. Arising from the citta, the substance of the inquiries turns into questions in the language of the heart, which the inquiring individual clearly understands, as if they were words in conventional language. Each word or phrase of the respondent emanates directly from the heart. So the questioner, in turn, understands the reply perfectly well. In fact, the language of the heart directly conveys the true feelings of the speaker, eliminating the need for explanations to clarify further, as might be required in conventional languages. Verbal communication is also a mechanism of the heart, but its nature is such that spoken words often do not reflect the heart's true feelings, so mistakes are easily made in communicating its true intent. This incongruity will remain so long as conventional language is used as a surrogate medium for the heart's expression. Since people are unfamiliar with the language of the heart, their hearts cannot avoid using normal speech as a mechanism to facilitate communication, even though it's not very accurate in expressing the heart's true meaning. There is no possible way to solve this common dilemma, unless people learn the heart's own language and expose its mysteries. Acharya Mun was extremely proficient in all matters pertaining to the heart, including the skills needed to train others to become good people. The rest of us, though we are quite capable of thinking of these things for ourselves, insist on going around borrowing from others. That is, we tend to constantly travel from place to place, studying under one teacher and then another. Even then, we fail to properly safeguard what we've learned, letting it slip through our grasp by forgetting what the teacher said. Thus, we are left virtually empty handed. The things we do not forget or let drop are our habitual failings, a lack of mindfulness, wisdom, and contemplative skill. Lacking the very qualities of Dhamma which instill a sense of hope in our lives, we are constantly disappointed in whatever we do in life. Acharya Mun's own meditation practice, as well as his teaching duties, continued to progress smoothly, any undue disturbances having long since passed. Wherever he went, he brought a refreshing calm and serenity with him. Monks and novices everywhere respected and revered him. As soon as the laity in an area heard of his arrival, they were delighted and rushed to pay him their respects with heartfelt devotion. A case in point is Bantum village in the district of Takek, where both Acharya Mun and Acharya Sao resided at one time or another. Shortly before Acharya Mun arrived, the entire village began suffering from smallpox. The villagers were overcome with joy at the sight of Acharya Mun's arrival, running out of their homes to welcome him and begging him to remain as their refuge. So, in place of the spirits the whole village had been worshipping, Acharya Mun had them take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. He guided them in the correct way to practice, such as paying daily homage to the Buddha and performing morning and evening chanting, and they gladly followed his instructions. As for Acharya Mun, he performed a kind of internal spiritual blessing to help them, and the results were strange and marvelous to witness. Before his arrival, many people died each day from the smallpox, but from his arrival onwards, no one else died, and those who were infected quickly recovered. More than that, no new instances of the disease occurred, which astounded the villagers who had never seen or imagined such a miraculous reversal of circumstances. As a result, the community developed enormous faith in and devotion to Acharya Mun, which have persisted undiminished through each generation to the present day. This includes the local monastery's present-day abbot, who has a deep respect for Acharya Mun. He always raises his joined palms in homage before beginning to speak about him. Incidents such as this were made possible by the power of Dhamma in Acharya Mun's heart, which radiated forth to give comfort and happiness to the world. Acharya Mun said that he set aside 3 times each day to extend loving kindness to all living beings. He would do this while sitting in meditation at midday, before retiring in the evening, and after rising in the morning. In addition to that, there were many times during the day when he sent loving kindness out specifically to certain individuals. When radiating all-encompassing loving kindness, he did so by focusing his citta exclusively inward, and then directing the flow of his citta to permeate throughout all the worlds, both above and below, in all directions without interruption. At that time, his citta had the power to extend its aura of brilliance to all worlds, limitless, all-pervasive, and brighter than 1,000 suns, for there is nothing brighter than a heart that's entirely pure. The unique properties emanating from a citta of such purity brighten the world and imbue it with peacefulness in an indescribable and wondrous way. A citta having absolutely no impurities possesses only the cool, peaceful qualities of Dhamma. A compassionate, kind-hearted monk with an absolutely pure heart can expect protection and reverential devotion from people and devas wherever he stays, while members of the animal kingdom feel no fear or danger in his presence. His citta constantly sends forth a gentle compassion to all beings everywhere without bias, much like rain falling evenly over hills and valleys alike. And we're going to end there today. We are on page 92. We'll resume tomorrow on page 92 at the bottom of the page in a new section titled Hardship and Deprivation. I'll see you next time with Metta. Bye-bye.